Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. Today we have 3 new stories. The first one's about a manager who thought she could manage her employees any way she wanted, and in the end, she had consequences. In our second story, Karen finds out why it's important to be nice. And our third story is why you shouldn't wear a blue shirt at PetSmart or a red shirt to Target. Now, let's get started. The most obvious I don't work here lady ever. Cast, me is me, CM is crazy manager, CW is coworker, LCW is lazy coworker. Backstory. When I was 16, straight out of school, I got a job at a boarding kennel where you send your pooch when you go on holiday. The place was owned by a vet who had her own breeding collection of Weimaraners. There were at least 20 of them at any time, depending on how many had pups. And I should have realized when I went for the interview that the manager was insane. If I hadn't been so excited about getting my first proper job, I would have run a mile. During the interview, the manager gave me a list of things to say to people who called with questions about the care of the dogs. These included, the dogs all get individual kennels unless specifically requested, i.e. if you have 2 dogs that live together and you want them to share. The dogs all get walked every day. If you bring your dogs your own preferred food, we will feed it to your dog, otherwise we will use good brand dry dog food. At the interview, the manager actually told me we don't walk the dogs ever. They just get let out in the walkway, the corridor that leads to the kennel's individual entrances. If there's time. That should have been the point I left. The hours were long, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. many days. The work was physically hard, moving sacks of dry food, bending over to pick up poop from 36 kennels 3 times a day, and carrying the full poop bucket to the drain to wash away, carrying 36 soiled vet beds every day to the laundry, and hanging them out to drip dry, feeding all the holiday dogs with the same generic dry food, then doing all of the above for the breeding dogs, and feeding and milking the 2 resident goats. Yes, goats, twice a day, along with the hosing and disinfecting of the whole area twice a day. It was about an acre of concrete. Getting from wherever we were to the office in time to answer the phone, taking bookings and doing paperwork, picking up broken glass by hand into buckets from the private woodland area where the resident dogs were allowed, but not the boarders, and much more. The last bus that ran from Worktown to Hometown left at 9:50, so many nights I had to walk 8 miles home. Most mornings there was a list of arrivals on the desk in the office and instructions on where to put them, along with a few extra tasks to be performed that day. Also a flashing light on the answering machine with people requiring callbacks to make bookings. I was usually the first person to arrive, so after checking that all the dogs had water and were okay, I would get on with writing the messages down for the manager when she got in. By the time I'd done this, CW and LCW had usually arrived. CW would let me know she was there and ready to start work, and LCW would be in the break area having a cigarette and a coffee. Me and CW would go and shut all the dogs out in their individual outside areas, clean the inside of the kennels, and open the trap doors to feed them. Sometimes there were 2 dogs in one kennel who didn't live together or really even know each other, despite the individual kennel thing that people were told. So one got fed inside and the other outside. LCW would refill all the water bowls while me and CW then went to see the resident dogs. The scenario went on for several weeks, with CM, who was scared of dogs, turning up for a couple of hours a day to cover lunchtimes. One day there was a note on the desk asking me to renew her library books. Who knew that was in my job description? I did, but had to pay a late fine for her out of my own pocket. There were many other instances of her asking me to do her personal errands, and for a while I did them without complaining. Now we're getting to the point of this post. One Monday morning, CM was at the desk when I arrived. CM, morning, me, you're late. Nobody else was there yet as it was 5:50 a.m. Me, morning CM, I don't start till 6. CM, I need to tell you something, but you're not allowed to tell CW or LCW. Me, oh, okay, go on, tell me. I got a little excited. I thought I might be getting a promotion. CM, I'm going to fire LCW at the end of the week. Me, oh wow, I can't believe you told me that. CM, remember, don't say anything. Me, okay. So CW and LCW arrive and we're cleaning the kennels. Me, CM told me she's going to fire you at the end of the week, LCW. I'm sorry, she told me not to say anything, but she had no right to put me in that position, so I just thought I'd warn you. CW. I can't believe she did that to you both. LCW. Joke's on her. I was quitting on Friday anyway. CW. I was going to leave at the end of the month. We're trying for a baby and working here's not good for it. We talked a bit longer and we all decided that we were going to quit there and then since CM was actually there for once, so there was someone to see to the dogs. We all walked in or marched down to the office. CW. CM, I quit. CM. Well, okay, that saves me from firing LCW. And CW walks away. LCW. I quit too. CM. Oh, really? I'd like to see you get another job. LCW walked away. Me. I don't agree with not telling LCW. You really shouldn't put me on the spot. I quit too. CM. You can't do that. Me. I don't have a contract. CM. You can't leave. Who's going to see to the dogs? Me. You? CM. I can't. You have to stay until I can hire someone else at least. Me. Nope. Walked out of the office, leaving the door to swing. We all went back at about the same time on Thursday to collect our final paychecks. I was the last one there, and the other two were just leaving as I got out of my dad's car. He'd given me a lift. CM opened the office door and yelled across the yard at me to pick up that cardboard box and put it in the skip. You should have done it yesterday. This was a massive box, like 6 feet by 4 feet, and me being only 5'3", I could not have lifted it alone. Me. I don't work here. I just came back to collect my wages. I went into the office, picked up my pay packet, and got back in the car, leaving CM with her mouth flapping like a fish. Love how that crazy manager got a karmic smackdown. And our next story. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. A few months back, I was invited to give the keynote speech for a conference at a fairly prestigious venue. Keep in mind that I was both very nervous and very excited because I'm quite young and this was my first time being invited to open a conference. I got all dressed up and went to the conference room early to make sure everything was in working order. Within a few minutes, people started filing in. Soon enough, a barrel-chested military type, who I recognized from the program as another presenter, walked in. I got up to introduce myself and hopefully counter my nerves by chatting a bit before everything began. Much to my chagrin, he didn't introduce himself. Instead, he immediately shoved a flash drive into my hand and barked at me, "Set this up." Clearly, being young and not in a military/security uniform, he assumed I was an administrator. Before I could tell him otherwise, he walked over to some older military-type man and began handing out business cards. Rather than correct him and not knowing the password to log in to set up his presentation, I just left the flash drive near the computer. He took no notice, and I didn't bother to let him know. Clearly, he didn't have time for me. When the conference began and the organizers introduced me to give the keynote, I made an effort to catch his eye as I made my way to the front. He registered confusion, then went beet red a few seconds later. You'll be happy to know that my presentation went off without a hitch, whereas he fumbled awkwardly with his own setup since he hadn't asked anybody to boot it up. The fact that he fumbled with his presentation won't register. He blamed an imaginary, lowly tech guy for sure. And our third story today. To be fair, her dog was extremely cute. I was running behind this morning and I was scrambling to find something to wear. I'd just gotten back from vacation, so a lot of my laundry was dirty. I put on the first clean clothes I could find, which was a pair of khaki pants and a blue polo shirt. As I raced out the door, my wife told me that she was opening up the last can of dog food. I told her, no problemo. I'll pick up more on my way home from work. Approximately 9 hours later, I was walking through PetSmart on my way to the canned food aisle. As I passed the aisle and the collars and leashes, a woman blurted out, "Excuse me." I stopped and backed up a couple of steps. There was a white girl in her late 20s standing there with a lab mix who was extremely happy to see me. I was also extremely happy to see him, but I didn't get a chance to formally introduce myself because the girl started in with, "I've been waiting for someone to come help me for 15 minutes. My gut reaction was to say, "That's a bummer." "Well, what are you going to do about that?" She had her arms crossed and her head cocked to one side. That's when it hit me. I was wearing the same exact outfit that PetSmart employees wear. Probably nothing. You know, I don't work here, right? She scoffed. "Yeah, like I'm gonna believe that." I'd just gotten off work, so I still had my ID badge on me. I held it in front of her and said, That's me. That's where I work. Oh, bullcrap. I kept the badge up and said, why would I have a fake ID from an insurance company? An actual PetSmart employee came around the corner looking concerned and said, is everything okay over here? She crossed her arms tighter and leaned in to really get in the guy's face and said, no, it's not. I've been waiting forever for some help with a leash. Now this effing clown is trying to tell me he doesn't work here. He looked at me and said, I have no idea who this guy is. I held up my badge for him. The dog at this point is still super happy. I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. I'm pretty sure that's where he works though. His badge looks super official. I sort of mumbled, yeah, that's what's up. The woman full-on yelled, he isn't impersonating an employee, you idiot. I said, hold up. I kept telling you that I don't work here. That's the exact opposite of impersonating someone. The woman looked to the employee and said, what the F are you going to do about him? He and I locked eyes, sharing a magical moment of understanding and heterosexual man passion. He said, nothing, I guess. As confusing and as upsetting as it may be for someone to wear a blue shirt, I don't really have the authority to make him not wear that here. Wearing a blue shirt is actually legal. She yelled, I'm effing out of here, and stormed away. Dog was still super happy, FYI. I kind of feel sorry for the dog having to deal with such a thunder C-word of an owner. Alright guys, thanks for watching the video to the end. I'll see you in the next one.